The Deathworld Council had never seen such silence before. Its chamber was always full of voices, debates, arguments, proud roars, and cold laughter from the galaxy's strongest species. They were called Deathworlders for a reason. Each of them came from a planet so dangerous that only the toughest lifeforms could survive. The council chamber sat on neutral ground, floating above a dead star. The gravity was artificial, the air recycled, the guards fully armed. No one expected peace here, only balance. But today something changed. The silence was not normal. It was heavy, like a warning. High Chancellor Cather of the Krell race looked up from his data screen. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. The alert had come just moments ago. Unidentified ships entering secure space. No identification, no request for landing, no transmission, no response. Nothing, only a fleet moving slowly toward the station. S voice cut through the silence like a blade. Who allowed new arrivals without clearance? No one answered because no one had. The Varnock ambassador slammed a clawed fist on the table. This is Deathworld Council territory. Those ships are trespassing if they do not respond. We must open fire before the order could be given. The doors shook. The vibration rolled through the entire station. The guards at the chamber entrance drew their weapons, ready for war. The screen above the main table blinked on, showing the massive doors of Docking Bay 9 opening slowly without command. The ships had forced their way in. The camera zoomed in. The ships were strange and damaged. Their hulls were covered in scratches and melted steel. Some sections were freshly welded, others were scorched deep with blast marks. Worse than that, something dark painted the ship's sides. It was blood-dried alien blood, marked in jagged war symbols that none of the council recognized, but they all understood one thing. The blood was a message. Reyes stood inside the lead ship. His armor was old, scratched, dull silver with a red stripe over the heart. His helmet covered his face, but his eyes burned behind the visor. Behind him walked 10 soldiers, each carrying weapons, each silent. No salute, no bow, no words. They moved with one purpose. As the chamber doors opened, a cold gust followed them. Even though there was no wind in the station, the council stared as Reyes walked forward. He said nothing, yet every step echoed louder than any shout in the room. He walked past the Varnock delegate, who bared his fangs. He walked past the Shikari twins, who had never bowed to anyone before. He reached the center of the room and stopped. "We're not here to ask," Reyes said. His voice was calm, cold, like space itself. "We're here to tell you." He pulled a blood-stained case from his back and dropped it on the table. The lock popped. The lid opened. Inside was something none of them expected. A severed head, an alien head, armored in black metal, sharp ridges, eyes still glowing dimly. It looked ancient, terrifying, and absolutely dead. The room filled with sound again. Chairs pushed back, weapons drawn, shouts rising, questions flying. But Reyes raised a hand and everything stopped. "We fought these things alone," he said. "They attacked our colony without warning, without reason. They didn't want land or minerals or slaves. They wanted screams." Stepped aside and gestured to one of his soldiers, who placed a small device on the table. A hologram flickered into life, showing scenes of fire, buildings, falling children, running blood on the streets, and those same black armored creatures hunting, laughing, destroying. "We chased them across 3 systems," Reyes continued. "We lost ships, we lost people, we lost cities, but we didn't stop because we knew if we didn't, no one else would." A deep voice came from the back. "You had no right to bring war here," said the Varnock ambassador. Reyes turned slowly. "If we hadn't brought this here, it would have come for you next." Another council member spoke. "You bring blood into our chamber and expect alliance." Reyes took a slow breath. "The blood on our ships is ours and theirs. We're not asking for alliance. We're giving a warning. They are coming, and when they do, you will need us more than we need you." He looked at every face in the chamber. None of them spoke, none of them moved. They saw something in the humans that unsettled them. Something ancient, something cold, something that didn't belong on weak Earth. They had underestimated humanity for too long. Reyes turned away, his team following him. Their armor creaked, their steps steady like drums of war behind him. The council sat frozen, not in fear, but in realization. Silent approach had ended, but a louder storm was coming, and it wore a human face. The chamber was still cold silence gripped every wall, every chair, every voice. Only the hum of the lights and the soft sound of retreating footsteps echoed as Reyes and his soldiers left the room. But they had not gone far. They stood just outside waiting, standing like statues made of steel and fire inside the council room. The air was thick not just with tension, but with something deeper. Something raw, the kind of silence that comes only after death or before War High Chancellor Cather finally moved. He reached for the case again and stared at the head inside. It was not just a warning, it was a question, a challenge, a scream that had no sound. The face of the dead creature was burned. Scarred, its armor was cracked black metal fused to bone, and what remained of its eyes still glowed dimly like dying embers. The head was not from any known species in the Deathworld databases, and that scared the Council more than they wanted to admit. Cathar opened a private line to Reyes. Commander, you brought U.S. blood, but not enough answers. Explain now, or your ships will be destroyed. Reyes did not flinch. He stepped forward again, not into the chamber, but just enough so the Council could see him clearly this time. His face was bare, helmet removed, eyes tired, face marked by long scars that told 100 stories of battles fought and lives lost. You ask for answers after ignoring our calls. Reyes said, his voice slow but sharp like a blade. We sent messages, we begged for help. When the first colony went silent, we thought it was a system failure. Then the second colony fell the same way. No distress call, no survivors. We knew something was wrong. We asked again, still silence. He raised a small device, pressed a button, and a larger hologram filled the center of the room. It showed a planet, beautiful, once green water, mountains, human structures. Then came the invasion ships. Black like the void, silent, no signals, no warning. They with perfect precision. And what followed was horror. Creatures poured out, armored beings twice the size of most humanoids, with limbs that split and shifted like living blades. They tore through buildings, through defenses, through people. The Council watched in disbelief as the footage played. Families hiding in shelters, being dragged out, entire towns erased in minutes. Even the planet itself began to change, as if their presence was poisoning the air, the soil, the water. We tried to evacuate, Reyes said, but the ships were shot down midair. We tried to fight, but our weapons only slowed them. What worked was something else, human rage, fear, desperation. We began to fight differently. We adapted, we improvised. We did not fight to win. We fought to hurt them, to make them bleed, to show them that we would not fall quietly. The footage changed now. It showed human soldiers setting traps, using their own bodies to lure the invaders into explosive zones, using molten lava from the planet's core as weapons, using hacked mining equipment as war machines. The enemies were strong, fast, ruthless, but humans were something else. They were unpredictable, relentless, and completely unwilling to surrender. We captured one, Reyes continued. We lost 60 men doing it, but we got one alive. We used every translator. We had every neural link. Nothing worked until it spoke in our dreams, whispering terrible things. It called itself a harbinger. Said it was only the first wave. Said we were insects that stung too much, so now they would burn the hive. Reyes looked around the council chamber again. Some delegates had gone pale. Some were frozen. Others simply stared into the hologram, as if trying to believe it was all fiction. The harbinger spoke of a great hunger. Reyes said, a swarm that moves between galaxies, not just feeding but destroying identity, culture, light itself. Their goal is not just to win, but to erase their victims from memory forever. He paused before continuing. We killed the harbinger, and we chased the rest across 3-star systems. They ran and we followed. Our ships bled, our people died, but we refused to stop because someone had to know. Someone had to be warned. Step forward now, placing a new chip on the table. This contains everything: coordinates, ship data, biology, what little we learned about them, and what we think is coming next. You can burn it, ignore it, laugh at it, or use it. But I swear on the graves of every colony they destroyed, if you wait too long they will come for you too. The council did not speak, not yet, not after watching entire worlds die in high definition, not after seeing human soldiers, who had no reason to keep fighting, do so anyway. The silence was heavy, but different than before. It was no longer disbelief. Now it was the weight of choice, of truth, of fear, and maybe of something the Council had never felt before when looking at humans. Respect. Reyes turned one last time and spoke his final words for the day. You think we are monsters for bringing blood. Here we are not. We are the survivors who came to warn you, and if you choose to shut the door again, next time we will not knock. He walked away, leaving the chip on the table glowing softly like a spark in darkness behind him. The Council sat in silence, facing a truth too big to ignore and too dangerous to forget. Inside the chamber of the Deathworld Council, the air was no longer cold. It was burning, not with heat, but with pressure, with the weight of decisions that no one wanted to make. The hologram had stopped playing, but its images still lived in every corner of the room, burned into every eye. Every breath was sharp, as if the oxygen itself had become too heavy to carry. The severed head still sat on the table, its glowing eyes now dim but still somehow watching, still judging, as if the enemy itself had left a piece behind to see what would happen. Next, High Chancellor Cather stood again, tall, strong, wrapped in the dark armor of the Krell, but now he seemed smaller, uncertain. His eyes scanned the room, waiting for someone to speak first. No one did. Finally, he broke the silence by calling for a vote, not on the threat, not on the footage, not even on the war, but on the humans. Shall the species known as Homo sapiens be granted observer status in the Deathworld Council with emergency clearance to share intelligence regarding external threats? He said clearly. Chamber buzzed as the delegates began murmuring. Some laughed, some growled, some shook their heads in disbelief. To many of them, humans were still new, still young, still untested, and yet here they were making demands covered in blood, talking of ancient threats and galactic death. The Varnock ambassador rose, his armored body massive, his teeth bared. He roared loud enough to shake the chamber. This is a trick, a performance, a desperate cry for attention. The Varnock do not believe in fear stories or weak species who wear blood like medals. If these humans were strong, they would not need us. They would stand alone and die alone. A few clapped, many did not. The Shikari twins spoke next, their voices layered, as if two minds shared the same thoughts. Humans are unstable. They say one thing but do another. They risk everything for emotion, for chaos. They have no order, no control. They are dangerous. Another delegate rose from the Zenari. Species ancient, slow but wise. We watched the footage. Their ships are small, their technology outdated, and yet they survived. That cannot be ignored. Perhaps it is not strength in weapons, but strength in Willa. Young voice rose from the back. It was the new representative of the Thalan people. His skin glowed faintly, his eyes wide and thoughtful. I watched my older brother die in a skirmish last year. Our fleet had better ships, stronger armor, but the enemy outmaneuvered us. We lacked what the humans showed: resolve, passion, refusal to quit. I believed them. Raised his hand for order, then he called the vote. Each council member placed a hand on the glowing console before them. Green for yes, red for no. The results flashed across the screen, fast, brutal. Final vote: denied. Humans will not be granted observer status. They will not be allowed to speak again in this chamber. They are to leave immediately, outside the doors. Reyes waited. He had not moved. He did not expect applause. He did not expect gratitude, but he had hoped for logic, for a sliver of reason for once from those who called themselves the protectors of the galaxy. Instead, he received nothing. A Krell guard approached him and spoke coldly. Your presence is no longer permitted. Leave now or be removed. Reyes said nothing at first. Then he took a slow breath, looked at his team, and nodded. They turned together, walking back toward the docking bay. Each step was heavier than the last, not from fear, not from anger, but from disappointment, from knowing the truth. They had given everything to warn them, and it had been wasted inside the chamber. Cather watched them leave, a piece of him twisted deep inside. A whisper of doubt barely formed, but growing. He looked again at the severed head, at the chip, still glowing on the table, untouched, unwanted, and for the first time in decades, he wondered if he had made a mistake. The Varnock ambassador laughed as the door shut. See, he shouted, they crawl away like insects. They know their place. But the laughter did not last long, because just then the lights flickered, only for a second, but it was enough to send a chill through the room. The power returned everything. Normal again. But the silence returned with it, not the silence of control or victory, but the silence of fear. Far from the chamber, far from the station, Reyes stood on the bridge of his ship watching the council fade from view in the window. He said nothing until they were out of range. Then he turned to his second-in-command, a woman named Harlow, who had lost her sister in the first colony attack. They said no again. She asked softly. Reyes nodded, then said, "Load the new coordinates, let's go." Prove them wrong. She didn't ask what he meant. She already knew they were going to the source, to the dark sector, to where the harbingers were born. If the council would not believe, then the humans would bring back proof, and if that failed, they would bring back war behind them. The engines roared, the stars shifted, the blood-stained ships turned and vanished into the dark, leaving behind only silence and a warning that had been ignored. The black space ahead of the human fleet pulsed with silence, the kind of silence that only comes before something ancient wakes, something that should have stayed forgotten. Reyes stood at the front of the command deck, his hands resting on the rail, his eyes fixed on the endless stars ahead. Behind him, his crew prepared in silence, each of them already knowing what was waiting for them out there, not through orders or briefings, but through instinct, through the scars on their souls. They had followed the enemy's trail for days, slipping between dead systems, scorched planets, shattered moons. Every sign pointed to one place, a system with no name, no light, no sound, only cold gravity and static echoes. It had been marked in old navigation charts as forbidden, cursed, silent. But the humans were not afraid of curses. They had already lived through one. When the fleet arrived at the edge of the dark sector, the screens went black, instruments began to fail one by one, like something ancient was whispering through the wires. Reyes gave the command: manually activate sensors, shield the crew from psychic interference, cut external signals, and prepare for silent entry. No one questioned him. They obeyed not from fear of discipline, but because they trusted the man who had bled beside them. As the human ships drifted into the shadow of the dead system, something moved ahead, something massive, blacker than black, ships so large they looked like mountains floating through the void. No lights, no energy readings, just presence enough to make the human crew feel like insects crawling at the feet of a god. Harlow spoke quietly. "Sir, we have visual confirmation. Enemy fleet is here, hundreds, maybe thousands." Reyes nodded. "Keep formation, launch probes silently. Let's see how deep this nest goes." Probes drifted forward, sending broken images, shattered signals. What they found made even the strongest soldiers pause. An entire planet twisted, broken, torn apart by massive claws. Not machines, not weapons, but something alive, something primal. Its surface burned and reshaped into spirals and sigils that no sane mind could read. Reyes stared at it, then spoke. "This is not just an enemy base. This is a birthing ground." He turned to his team. They watched him, waiting. "We are not leaving without a message they need to know. We came, that we saw, that we struck first. Load the missiles, target the central spire on my mark." Harlow raised an eyebrow. "If we fire, they will come." Reyes nodded. "I know, that's the point." The missiles launched like angry stars streaking through the dark. They struck the central spire of the twisted planet, and for a moment, nothing happened, just silence. Then the world screamed, not with sound, but with gravity waves, shock pulses, raw energy that shook the ships. As if the void itself had roared awake suddenly, the black shapes turned lights. Flared blood-red eyes opened across the hulls of the enemy fleet, and the harbingers moved. Reyes stood tall, steady, as his ship shuddered around him, every screen now flashing red. Enemy incoming, hundreds, moving fast like shadows come alive. He raised his voice. "All units engage. Use guerrilla protocol. Strike, scatter, bleed them, and run. We are not here to win. We are here to teach them pain." And so began the fire they unleashed. The humans split into wings, each wing moving like wolves around giants, targeting engines, cutting power cores, dragging the enemy ships into planetary debris fields, then detonating them one by one. Reyes's ship dove beneath a harbinger cruiser, planting charges along the spine before pulling up hard and vanishing behind a gas cloud. The explosion ripped the cruiser open like a rotten fruit. Fire poured Into space silent and endless, Harlow led a flanking unit that used asteroid gravity to slingshot through enemy lines, dropping mines that shattered hulls and ignited black fuel lines. The enemy ships did not scream, but they reacted like beasts wounded. Enraged, they began swarming, chasing, tearing through the dark, but the humans kept moving, kept fighting, kept killing, even when their ships caught fire, even when hulls cracked, even when half the fleet was gone. They did not stop because they had come to burn something into the stars, a message. You are not untouchable. Reyes took a hit. The side of his command ship torn open, the deck tilted, bodies flying, alarms screaming. He crawled to the helm, grabbed the manual override, and yelled into the comms. All units retreat to rally point. Echo 7, break off. We've made our point now. Live to repeat it. One by one, the remaining ships blinked out, jumping into hyperspace, just as the enemy regrouped, but not before leaving behind wreckage, debris, and 20 destroyed Harbinger vessels, more than any species had ever claimed in one encounter. Harbingers hovered in the black smoke, scanning for the strange new enemy that had dared to strike them. No fear, no retreat, only confusion. They were not used to prey that bites back. Reyes lay on the deck, breathing hard, wounded, but alive. He looked at the stars and whispered, "We were never prey, we were fire." Deathworld Council chamber stood quiet once more, but the silence this time was not from pride or authority. It was fear, raw and spreading like cold water through cracks in ancient stone. The delegates sat in their seats, eyes fixed on the large central screen where the human data chip had been activated without a vote, without consent, by the oldest race in the room. The Eldari, who had not spoken for a century, had silently pressed the activation rune, and now they all watched. The footage played across the great curved display, walls of fire, debris fields, twisted enemy wreckage, bodies floating in space, human ships bloodstained, broken, limping, yet still moving, still fighting, still alive. A fleet that should have died 100 times but refused to fall, refused to vanish. The Harbingers were now seen not as myth, not as old warnings in dusty scrolls, but as real as bone and steel. Their black ships moved with unnatural grace, their weapons silent but brutal, their tactics perfect, and yet the humans had hurt them, had drawn blood, had destroyed entire vessels, and walked away. Chancellor Cather sat frozen, his fingers tightening around the armrest of his seat, not in anger, but in disbelief. All his knowledge, all his logic had failed to predict what he was seeing. He had dismissed the humans as impulsive, as wild, as unsuited for higher responsibility. But now he was seeing something else, something deeper. Varnock Ambassador no longer laughed. His eyes were fixed on a single scene where a human ship burst into flames, then turned around and crashed into a Harbinger cruiser, sacrificing itself to destroy a far stronger enemy. He whispered, without realizing it, "No one fights like this, not even us." Shikari twins had nothing to say. They simply stared, their sharp minds unable to process how humans had not only survived but turned chaos into strategy, pain into power, fear into fire. Thalen Delegate rose slowly, his glowing skin dimmed by the weight of realization. "I saw my people run from the Harbingers. A century ago, we lost half our worlds in a month. We begged the Council for help, and no one came. The humans did not beg. They bled and kept going." The elderly elder finally spoke, his voice slow, like moving stone. "The Harbingers were thought extinct. We believed they fed until nothing was left, then returned to sleep. It seems we were wrong, and it seems the humans are the only ones who dared to wake them." He turned toward the rest of the Council, and what he said next shook the chamber. "We must listen to them, not because they ask, but because they already paid the price. They already know the cost." But still the Council hesitated. Fear makes minds slow, pride makes hearts blind, and the idea that humanity, a species so young, so reckless, could be the key to survival was too bitter for many to swallow. Cather rose once more and said, "We have seen their fire, but fire alone cannot lead. Fire must be tempered with wisdom, with unity. We cannot hand power to a species that acts without control." Then the chamber doors opened, not with permission, but with warning. Every eye turned as a lone human stepped in, not Rey is not a soldier, but a woman dressed in simple black armor. No weapons, only a device in her hand. She walked forward to the center of the room and placed the device on the table. Then looked at every face one by one. Her voice was calm. "I am Dr. Ellen Hart, lead scientist aboard the vessel Vengeance. I bring proof not of destruction, but of knowledge." She activated the device, and it projected data streams, genetic maps, weapon frequencies, energy analysis, and most importantly, neural scans of the captured harbinger before its death, showing its communication patterns, its hive structure, its shared memory. "Harbingers are not just invaders," she said, "they are a single mind. Spread across many bodies. When you fight one, you fight all. When you kill one, they all feel it, and when we burn them." Remembered. A cold shiver passed through the delegates as they realized the meaning the humans had not only struck the enemy, they had taught the enemy to fear. Dr. Hart looked at them again. "This is not just war. This is survival, and your time to choose sides is running out. We brought blood because no one listened. We bring data now because someone must understand we are not the threat. The threat is coming, and it remembers the ones who heard it." She stepped back and waited. The chamber fell silent again. But now it was not the silence of dismissal or doubt. It was the silence before the storm, the kind of silence that comes when predators smell something stronger than themselves. Light in the council chamber shifted as the massive doors opened once more. Humans entered bearing vessels of crimson liquid, carefully contained in transparent canisters, their silhouettes framed by the glow of the corridor behind them. Anticipation thrummed in every heart. The delegates watched as Reyes stepped forward, his armor bearing fresh scars, each one a testament to battles fought and loss endured. He held one canister high, the crimson liquid catching the pale light, and he said, "This is our blood spilled for you, spilled to warn you, spilled so you may live." Others followed Harlow, Dr. Hart, and several soldiers, each placing a canister on the central table. Together they formed a circle around the deck, and the blood within the canisters pulsed like living fire, a testament to sacrifice and warning. Cather rose uncertain, his voice trembling. "We saw your ships bathed in blood, but we did not know where it came from. Now we see it was your own. You bled for others, you bled for us." The room was silent, except for the drip of liquid within glass vessels, each drop echoing louder than any shout. "Collect yourselves." Reyes said, "Our blood is not a threat. It is a message. It is a promise. We came alone because no one else would step forward. We stained our ships with our own life essence, so you could not ignore our need. We risked every life among us so you might hear us. Now hold this blood in your hands. Feel its weight, feel its cost, and decide if our warning matters or if you will let this blood be in vain." He paused as the delegates leaned in to peer at the vessels. Some placed gloved hands on the cool glass and stared at the dark liquid swirling within. Their breath caught as if they inhaled centuries of human suffering and determination. The young Thalan delegate whispered, "I feel the heat of their struggle. It burns through the glass. I can almost feel their hearts pounding in agony for every drop. They carried our hopes," Dr. Hart said. "Our scientists tested this blood. It carries the markers of our fallen, our strength, our resilience. When we lost half our ships, we pressed on because we knew that without warning you would never be ready. So we carried this blood as proof, as sacrifice. Once we destroy the harbingers, we will have no choice but to remember this moment when we bled to save the galaxy. We will remember, all will. I swear on every life lost among us." Reyes concluded. His voice softened yet filled the chamber. "These vials are not trophies. They are warnings, they are prayers, they are challenges between every species. Hear a question asked by destiny: will you stand against the darkness, or will you watch it consume you as it consumed us? If you choose to act, we will stand with you. If you choose to wait, we will forgive no one for your silence." With that, he stepped back and Harlow activated the hologram to show not battle scenes, but living human families rebuilding communities on a healed planet. She wanted them to see what the blood had bought: life, renewal, hope, peace, and unity. That was the cost of the sacrifice. She showed images of children planting trees, of soldiers teaching medicine, of engineers building new ships for exploration. The contrast cut through the fear. The delegates saw not only vessels of violence, but vessels of life and possibility. Cather looked at debris fields. He saw seeds planted, his eyes shifted to the blood vials, and he felt a tremor deep within, a hope he thought lost to fear. He could not ignore. He called for deliberation. Let all speak now, he said. The decision you render today will echo across galaxies like the cry of a child lost in darkness. The chamber erupted at last. Voices rose in debates, some pledging allegiance, others demanding proof. One elder voice cut through the cacophony. The Eldari elder stood, his ancient frame hunched yet regal. He spoke, "Our code demands proof of intent. We have it, and more. We have sacrifice and salvation." He gestured at the blood and at the images. If that is enough, then let us unite. If that is not, then let us fall separately. But fall we will of this, I am certain. As the debate raged, the humans stood silent, their gaze firm, their posture proud. They had given blood and knowledge. They had given warning and hope. Now they awaited the Council's choice. The weight of countless lives pressed upon every soul in the room. One choice would forge an alliance that could save all life. One would ignite a war that could end it. Meanwhile, outside the station, the human fleet hovered like a shadow in waiting, ready to act at a single signal. The crews tended to wounded, counted bodies, honored the fallen, and readied supplies. They knew the Council might fail, but they had given everything, and that was enough. Then the Council's final vote glowed on the main display, reverberating through the walls, each word flashing like a heartbeat. Allies united against the darkness, proclaimed, the green lights shining alongside names of every species except one, the Varnock, who alone held a red mark. Then silence fell again as the Council President declared, "We stand with humanity to face the harbingers behind him." The Nazari rep raised her hand. "Our fleets combine our weapons, share our knowledge, our blood binds us. Let every world know this day that when one species bleeds for all, we find our strength." When the last echo of approval faded, Reyes exhaled a breath he had held since he spilled his blood. Then he walked to the table, lifting a canister of blood high again, this time as a symbol of unity. "Press here," he said, and a thin stream of blood connected with a central crystal pyramid on the table. Instantly the hologram shifted to show a map of the galaxy, lines of light tracing from human ships to every allied vessel, a network of hope formed by sacrifice, and nothing could break it. Now not even the harbingers. The Council rose as one. A soundless pledge passed through every soul, a vow written in living blood, to defend life and to never forget the price paid to secure their future. The blood on the table glowed softly like a beacon in the dark, and somewhere beyond the stars the harbingers felt the wound, and they knew they had awakened a fire that would never die. The Council chamber trembled with tension as the final vote loomed, and every delegate felt the gravity of the moment pressing down like a star collapsing under its own weight. The Eldari elder rose first, his ancient frame unsteady, but his voice unwavering. "We have bled with the humans, we have seen their sacrifice, and we have learned their strength. Let us not falter now. Let us stand together against the darkness." He raised his hand and a soft murmur rose among the others. Then the Thalan representative spoke, his skin glowing faintly in the dim light. He recalled his fleet's near destruction, and how humans fought on when all hope was lost. He said, "If we turn away now, we turn away from life itself. I vote for war against." The harbingers, the Shikari twins, stood side by side, their layered voices cool and measured. "We do not trust easily, but we cannot ignore the truth before us. If this alliance means our own end, we shall embrace it rather than face extinction." Varnock ambassador hesitated, his massive form looming over the seat before he spoke, his voice low and fierce. "I was the first to reject humanity's plea because I saw chaos and emotion, but I was wrong. I saw anger, but I did not see purpose. I vote with the Alliance for war, despite my fear." The chamber fell silent at his words, for the Varnock had never shown doubt publicly. Then one by one, the other species rose, each in their own way, placing hands on their consoles as the voting lights flickered. Green or red? The green lights spread rapidly until only a handful of red remained. More than 2/3 of the Council had chosen to wage war in unity with the human race. The final red light flickered off, and in its place a single green shone. Brighter than the rest, it was the voice of the smallest species in the council, the Ashari child representative who had watched her entire world burn. She whispered with tears in her eyes, "I vote for life and for hope. Let us fight together, and let no soul be lost." The chamber erupted not in chaos but in a storm of relief and resolve. Cheers roared in silence. Walls shook with the power of unity as every delegate rose in turn, some weeping, some roaring, some standing in stunned awe. The High Chancellor Cather pounded his fist on the console, his 4 eyes shining with pride and regret. He said, "Today, we become more than a council. We become the shield that protects all life against the devourer beyond the stars." He declared the vote final and binding. The War Council would convene at once to plan the campaign, and every allied fleet would converge on the dark sector within days. The seat of humanity would be raised from observer to full member, with equal voice in strategy, and honor-hallowed oaths were exchanged in the silent language of purpose and duty as holograms shifted from images of destruction to maps of the galaxy marked with targets, supply lines, and rendezvous points. Back on the human ships, Reyes watched. The Council's decision streamed live to every bridge. He closed his eyes and whispered, "We have partners now, partners who saw our blood and chose to fight with us." He opened his eyes to the view screen where allies from dozens of species appeared. In formation, their ships aligning in delicate arcs of light across the void. A single voice crackled through the comms. "This is Admiral Rill of the Zinther Fleet. We stand ready at your side. End transmission." Behind him, Harlow nodded and said, "Prepare to jump. Hyper coordinates incoming. Are you ready, Sir?" Reyes turned to his crew, each face marked by loss and steel determination. He said, "We have come to walk through fire, and we will emerge victorious together." They strapped in as the engines powered up and the stars blurred into streaks of light. In the council chamber, the Eldari elder spoke again, his voice soft but strong. "Let this day be remembered as the moment when fear became courage, when isolation became unity, and when life itself declared that it would not yield. The blood on our hands is our vow, and the war we wage now is the war for every living soul." Beyond the stars, the Harbinger fleet stirred. A tremor passed through their hive collective, as if they sensed this new threat that burned with the fury of all its enemies combined. But the humans and their allies would not wait for darkness to take action. They would strike first, and with every vessel they would carry the promise of life stamped in living blood. The vote had been cast and the war had begun, and in every heart across the galaxy, there bloomed a single hope that together they could turn back the void and build a future, bathed not in blood but in the light of victory and peace.